We talk recently about how we are the resistance. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. One of the people who I count on for keeping me inspired is Thom Hartmann, our host here on WCPT, Monday through Friday. Thom joins us now. Thom Hartmann, how are you?
Hey, Joan, I'm great, but I'll get better. How about you?
Well, it's hump day, and, I feel pretty good about things on hump day. Is Louise holding up?
Oh, yeah. We're fine. We're very concerned about the fate and future of our nation and about whether democracy will survive this just all-out open assault on it by Trump and Vance and Musk and the Heritage Foundation and the right-wing billionaires in America. But I have a lot of faith in this country. We've been through hell and back multiple times. World War II, the Great Depression, the Vietnam War, the Civil War, the War of 1812. I mean, it just goes on and on. I really believe that we're gonna be okay. But I'm still working as hard as I can. I think it's possible that we fail or the country fails if we fail the country, if we don't stand up and join together and speak out as loudly and as passionately as we can.
Sorry, we're getting a little bit of feedback on my end. One of the things that has cheered me immensely is seeing clips from the various town halls that both Democrats and Republicans have had. The Republicans are hearing that people don't like the direction that they are taking, and the Democrats are hearing that they need to fight harder. I think that in times of crisis, most of our problems are solved by the pressure flows uphill, if you will, from the grassroots up to the leadership. And I am so pleased to see that happening. I spoke on Saturday to McHenry County women Democrats, and man, Thom, they were fired up. Some of them are elected officials, but most of them aren't. They're just people who believe in this country and who believe in democracy. And when I talk to people like that, it really does my heart glad. I agree with you that I think we can get through this, but I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Well, it wasn't a majority of Americans who put Trump in the White House, and it wasn't even a majority of voters who put him in the White House. He won a plurality, not a majority. And I think it's important that we always remember that. We are the majority, or at least those people who are not with Trump are the majority. And, that's why these guys are doing all this drastic stuff.
What do you make of Donald Trump's little mini-me, Elon Musk? I understood, Trump can never say no to somebody who's really rich and wants to support him financially. But doing press conferences from the West Wing, being sitting right next to him when they do a presidential interview with Sean Hannity, showing up today at the cabinet meeting. This is getting really weird, Thom. What do you make of this?
It is weird. Nobody elected the world's richest man to run our country, and that's appears to be what's going on right now. But whether Donald Trump is just so excited to have somebody that he considers his superior, somebody he thinks is smarter than him and he knows is richer than him, guiding him essentially and doing the things for him, or whether he gets some kind of kick out of feeling like he's directing Musk, or whether it's that he's afraid of Musk. I mean, Musk has the financial capability to pretty much destroy anybody he chooses to. He could even run ads against the Republican Party right now if he got pissed off enough. So I'm not sure anybody really knows exactly what kind of relationship Trump and Musk have, or what hold Musk has over Trump, or what's really going on there. I mean, Musk's son walked up to Donald Trump and said, "You're not the president. Get out of that chair and shut up your mouth." and Trump just took it. I mean, it's really pretty breathtaking. I've never seen, outside of cowing himself in front of Putin, like at Helsinki, where his body language was that of, the beta to Putin's alpha, and he basically, caved to everything Putin said. That and Musk, and of course Putin's probably richer than Musk.
Yeah, well, by some accounts, Putin is the world's richest man because the oligarchs serve at his pleasure, and their fortunes, by some accounting, are really his fortunes. I mean, and they have to stay on his good side lest they decide to suddenly take flight out of the nearest window or down the nearest stairwell, which seems to happen a lot. Thom, can you still hear me? Lady B, why don't we take a break and see if we can get this connection a little better? We'll be right back after this.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
I'm joined by Thom Hartmann. He does our middays here at WCPT Monday through Friday. He also does a report that you can get emailed to you, the Hartmann Report. And we have talked before about his many books having to do with how we got here, the history of the American experience, if you will. Thom, we were just talking about Elon Musk and the strange outsized influence that he has not only on Trump, but also on the members of Congress. And I would also think the members of the Senate, though that perhaps hasn't been as widely publicized. Supposedly when he first wanted to put an end to the very first budget proposal, he used his money as a weapon. You get rid of this budget, I don't like it, or I'm going to use my money to primary you. And we know that a lot of people who are in elected office, retaining that office is their number one priority. So do you foresee anything that could be said or anything that could happen that would cause either the Republicans in Congress or the Republicans in the Senate to actually stand up and oppose some of this nonsense?
Well, and my apologies for dropping off, Joan. My software crashed. I think it's important to remember Lincoln's comment, that public opinion is everything, that at least in a democracy. I mean, you could argue we're no longer in a democracy, but I still think public opinion plays a huge role. It's one of the reasons I think why Republicans this week apparently have sent out the memo, don't do any more town halls. We don't want any more of those kind of clips circulating in the media. So, where this goes, and, I also think that when the Supreme Court, when Clarence Thomas was being massaged by, or bribed, frankly, by right-wing billionaires and became the deciding vote in 2010 on Citizens United, which threw the doors open to any very, very rich person basically buying any politician or destroying any politician that they want. John Paul Stevens wrote a scathing dissent in Citizens United. It's really worth reading. I mean, every word of it is just prescient, in which he predicted exactly what we're experiencing right now, which is that, very extraordinary rich individuals or corporations would rise up and seize control of a political party and seize control of our political system. And so here we've got the world's richest guy who has seized control of both the political system and the GOP. And that's why I think Trump may well be terrified of Musk. I mean, Musk sure slapped down Joni Ernst when she was thinking.
Yes, indeed,
he
did.
Yeah, and he did it by putting $10 million worth of, I believe it was, fact check me on the amount, but by buying ads in Iowa, promoting Pete Hegseth and kind of implying that Joni Ernst better get with the program. And she saw that if she wants to continue to be a senator, this is the price. She's going to have to kiss, Musk and Trump's ass. And I think it's just a tragedy. It's the framers and founders of this country and framers of the Constitution have to be rolling in their graves. This is also exactly what Henry Wallace, Franklin Roosevelt's second vice president, warned us about in a 1944 essay in the New York Times, where the Times asked him, are there fascists in America? And he said, yes, they are the leaders of business. And they are trying to reach out for power, and we're going to put them in a box. But look out, because if they ever get unleashed, they will destroy this country. I'm going to write about that this week. In fact, I think and Sinclair Lewis. I mean, if you've read It Can't Happen Here, his 1920s or 30s novel, I think it was the 30s, with Buzz Winthrop, the newspaper publisher from Vermont who fled up to Canada to avoid the new fascist president who came in, talking like a good old boy and being a populist, basically. This is the danger of populism, always has been. So I think we're facing a really serious challenge that was largely set up by 5 corrupt Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court, tragically.
Yeah, I think so, too. Is the bar too high if we expect people in elected office, particularly high elected office, they get sworn in, they swear an oath to the Constitution, but when, like, say, Joni Ernst, faced with her own political demise, she voted for somebody she clearly, if Joni Ernst had voted no, his nomination would have never left the committee. Hegseth would have never made it to the floor. Is it too much to look at Joni Ernst and feel that she has failed?
Well, she has failed. She clearly put her political career above her country. But in a larger sense, the system has failed, and the system has failed because it was corrupted by these 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court, now 6. But the 5 who voted in Citizens United. And frankly, a completely different set of 5 who back in 1978 in the Bellotti decision voted to recognize corporations as persons and give them the right to buy politicians as well and influence political campaigns. That overturned the Tillman Act, which Teddy Roosevelt busted his butt to get through Congress in 1907, which made it a felony. It was a federal felony for a corporation to give money to any politician or candidacy for federal office. And that stood, right up until the Supreme Court took it down in 1978. And that, of course, then provided the means for the oil industry in 79 and 80 to float Ronald Reagan into the White House on a small tsunami of, petro money. So, this isn't a newer instant problem that we're facing. It's one that's been with us for some time, and there's always been this dynamic tension in America. But never before have we seen the big business and the people that Mussolini would call the fascists, that Henry Wallace would call the fascists, actually take over in its entirety an administration. This is something brand new in the American experience, and one just hopes that enough Republicans are going to become more afraid of their constituents than they are of Elon Musk's money, that this can be turned around. Because, frankly, at the moment, the Democrats can't stop this. They can raise hell. I love the fact that Ro Khanna is going to be doing town halls in 3 different Republican districts in California, because Republicans won't. And Mark Pokian has been doing that for years. He goes into the red districts in Wisconsin and does town halls. I wish every Democratic member of the House of Representatives would adopt a district, and every Democratic senator would adopt a state and do like Bernie's doing right now and go into go into those districts for those states and hold town halls, because the Republicans won't. If Democratic leadership could get their act together to just do that, which would not be particularly expensive or difficult, I think you could see a major turnaround in America. I'm just concerned that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are not, frankly, leading.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was going to ask you about. Hakeem Jeffries, he just appeared in Chicago like a week or so ago to promote a new book that he's written. And now the book is called The ABCs of Democracy. But Indivisible Chicago said, we're organizing a protest. While the world is in such turmoil, while the country's on fire, this is not the time to go on a book tour. This is a time to be fighting tooth and nail and working the phones. And on the one, I agree with that. And I started, how could we put a good spin on this? Well, maybe doing his book tour, he's going to be visiting different communities that would never listen to, say, a Hakeem Jeffries soundbite on CNN or see him on their local news. That was as good as I could come up with, that the idea that he wanted to reach perhaps different audiences than traditional politics reaches. But I know that, it was widely reported when J.B. Pritzker helped organize that Democratic governor's call with Chuck Schumer, basically saying, dude, you've got to do more. And Chuck Schumer, as part of the conversation, said, well, Cory Booker is teaching us all how to use social media. He's put together a PowerPoint presentation to what the different platforms are and how often you should post and the kind of things that you should put. And I'm reading this, and I just wanted to start hitting my head against my desk. This was part of Schumer's, see, we're doing things. We're going to all watch this PowerPoint presentation from Cory Booker on how we can use social media. And I'm thinking to myself, all is lost. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a real tragedy. I mean, you just have to ask, what would Martin Luther King Jr. do? It's like, for that matter, what would John Lewis do?
Well, that was that famous soundbite that made circulation from the town hall. I can't remember the congressman's name off the top of my head, but it was Albany, New York. And this guy got up and said, I was so proud of you when you did those interviews on the Capitol steps with Maxine Waters but then I thought to myself, if John Lewis were there, he wouldn't just, speak to a couple of cameras. He would get arrested. And he was like, that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to get arrested. And the guy said, and we will be there and we will get arrested with you. And the crowd stood up in a standing ovation as the Democratic congressperson, Paul Tonko, sat there, frankly, looking, I think, a little bit befuddled by all of this.
Yeah, it's so weird, Joan, because as you well know, before the election, we had the president of the United States, Joe Biden, the vice president, who was the candidate for president, Kamala Harris, and the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and I mean, we had this whole constellation of Democratic superstars telling us that Trump and Vance were fascists and that we were fighting for the survival of our country. And I haven't heard a peep. I believe Kamala Harris has given one speech since she lost the election. I haven't heard a word from Joe Biden. Where the hell is Bill Clinton? Where is Barack Obama? I mean, are we facing an existential crisis or not? If we are, it should be all hands on deck. And if we're not, somebody should come out and tell us to just chill out. And I'm not talking about James Carville.
Roll over and play possum till they go away. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think his advice this time is good. I will tell you, I've said the same thing about Kamala Harris. And I would get pushback from people in the audience and some political science professors who say, well, traditionally, if you lose the election for president, you go away for a while and you're not heard from for a while. Exactly. And it's not proper. Did you know this, Thom? It's really not proper for former presidents to be speaking out because, the whole, we did the job. We're not going to criticize the other people doing the job. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe that's the way it's always been, but this doesn't seem like regular times. This seems like the kind of time where we want to hear from Bill Clinton and we want to hear from Barack Obama and we want to hear from Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Carter came on my program and said, we have now slid into oligarchy. This is, and it was because of the Supreme Court. I mean, he was willing to just come right out and say it. But he's gone now, sadly, and we're left with these people who, frankly, are letting us down, in my opinion. I'm a Democrat. I'm a big fan of the Democratic Party. I support the Democratic Party. I think the other thing that we all have to do, again, this is something that the Democratic Party leadership should be telling everybody, but if you want to have a Democratic Party that's going to fight back, it's going to have to come from the bottom up. Mm-hmm. And what that means, and particularly if for people listening to this program right now who are probably progressives, if you want to have a progressive Democratic Party, that's got to come from the bottom up. And by bottom up, I mean the local precincts, local. Become a precinct committee person, volunteer, join your Democratic Party. When a critical threshold, and I don't even think it's 50%, I think it's probably closer to 25% of the local Democratic parties become are taken over by local progressives and activists and are willing to, get out there and lead and speak out and generate some energy and wake people the hell up, then the Democratic Party itself will change and it'll become, less corporate. I mean, it took this corporate turn in 1992 when Bill Clinton kind of became Ronald Reagan light. And, we left a lot of that behind with the Biden presidency. Joe Biden was one of the best presidents of my lifetime, but he never told anybody what he was doing. He was also one of the worst communicators of my lifetime.
But that was the tradition. He came from the Senate. He's not going to get out there and toot his own horn. And, in one of the interviews he did very late in the game when he was no longer running, he said, like when we sent those checks out to people, not only should I have signed them, but I should have started telling everybody you're getting Biden bucks. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, Joe, you're exactly right.
Yeah, which is what Trump did, back in 2020.
Yes. He absolutely did.
And Trump was, on TV every single day for 4 years, or virtually every day for 4 years, and is today. And Biden just vanished for 3.5 years, and really for 4 years. And it's a tragedy. I mean, you would think anybody with any common sense would have said this is no way to run a government and to run for re-election in political office.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
We can complain and whine and all day long, and it's not going to do a damn bit of it. We do need, all of us need to get active with our local Democratic parties. We need to contribute to progressive politicians. From speaking for myself, every time I see a Democrat stand up and do something brave, and frankly, lately it's been mostly Embassy and Jasmine Crockett and a handful of people who I'm sure you could list their names as easily as I could. I go to their campaign website and send them $10 or $25. I'm not a rich guy, but I can afford, in aggregate, maybe $1,000 a year to give to politicians in little tiny pieces, and it's just my way of saying to them, I've got your back, I'm with you. And I think if a lot of us started doing that maybe that would, steel the spines of some of the other Democrats. Although Hakeem Jeffries on Rachel Maddow's show the other day said, we don't need any more steel in our spines. I think they do.
I think they do, too. Thom Hartmann, thank you so much. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Oh, thank you for having me, Joan. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always an honor to be on your program.